And get started. Yeah, so thanks everybody. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining in on this panel as part of our third annual Pierce County Affordable Housing Week. On behalf of the Tacoma-Pierce County Affordable Housing Consortium, I'd like to welcome you here today for our discussion. Today's discussion is titled Keys to the Future: Expanding Access to Affordable Homeownership. Today's virtual panel is sponsored by U.S. Bank, Absher Construction, BCRA, and the Tacoma-Pierce County Habitat for Humanity. And thank you also to our housing champion, Tacoma Housing Authority, for their support with this week's event and celebrations. I'd also like to start off with a land acknowledgement. We gratefully honor and acknowledge that we rest on the traditional lands of the Puyallup people. They are still here today and continue to thrive in their communities. This acknowledgement is one small step towards true allyship as we commit to uplifting Indigenous voices and reflecting on histories of dispossession. Let us all remain dedicated to the cause of social justice for Indigenous populations. And so last year for Affordable Housing Week, we discussed how housing is connected to many other aspects of our lives. This year, our theme is switching to an emphasis on the range of housing options available from emergency shelters all the way to home ownership. This week's going to highlight various types of affordable housing, the community stakeholders involved, the local needs for these housing options. And through these conversations, we're going to challenge you to expand your idea and understanding of what home means and recognize the diverse paths that people take to get there. Through these panels this week and tours and community events, we've been exploring and will continue to explore how to create a Pierce County where everyone has a safe and stable place to call home. And we have a couple of other events this week. Today we have, if you're a member of the consortium, please join us for a roundtable at 5 p.m. at West on the Waterway. And we have a reception this evening at 6 p.m. Please join us for that. Put a link in the chat for you. And so today's panel is going to be pretty simple, structurally wise. I'm going to start by briefly introducing our panelists, and then I'm going to invite each of them to discuss their role, their organization, and their insights from their work. And after everybody's had a chance to speak, I'd love for anybody that has questions or would like to engage in conversation to do it then. Please come willing to take yourself off of mute and have an engaging discussion with us. And now I'd like to introduce myself and the organization that I'm representing today. My name is Casey Twiggs, and I will be your host. The Affordable Housing Consortium is a nonprofit membership-based agency that provides public education, advocacy, and support for the expansion of affordable housing throughout Pierce County. We do this by educating the public on the need for affordable housing, hosting virtual events such as this one, panels, and sharing information with the public on the need for housing and local policy. We also advocate at the state and local levels for policies and funding that support the creation of more affordable housing, as well as bolster the work of our members. We have about 75 dedicated members ranging from housing developers to individual advocates, and we work tirelessly to foster communities where everyone has access to safe and affordable homes. And today's discussion is focused on affordable home ownership. This type of housing serves households earning between 80% to 120% AMI, many of whom are first-time home buyers, families of color, the moderate income workers, priced out of traditional housing markets. It's becoming increasingly more common. And programs like community land trust, down payment assistance, and shared equity models support long-term affordability. In Pierce County, organizations like Habitat for Humanity, One Drop, and Pierce County Community Land Trust, among others, are helping families build equity and stability. And the demand for affordable home ownership units in Pierce County by 2044 is estimated to be close to 13,500 for those at 80% to 120% AMI, and over 27,000 units for those income levels above 120 AMI, which are also often addressed by market rate strategies which we will focus on tomorrow in tomorrow's panel. So let me briefly introduce our panelists for today. We've got Titus Davis, Community Lending Officer with Washington Land Trust, or Washington Trust Bank, excuse me. Deena Giesen, Director of Home Ownership at the Tacoma-Pierce County Habitat for Humanity. And we've got Jesse Baines, founder and board member at Pierce County Community Land Trust. Titus, we're going to start it off with you. We'd love to hear about your role, what Washington Trust Bank is doing to support home ownership and community residents.
Awesome. Yep. So I'm Titus Davis. I am a community lending officer. So my role is really to educate and be in the community, host home buyer classes. My job is also to kind of go out there and find where there are any down payment assistance monies and letting the community know about it. We do focus on the low to moderate income areas. Our focus is on those CRA areas, and then coming up with ways to, like say, bridge that gap or fill in that gap on that home ownership. So one of the things that we do, at least at Washington Trust Bank, we're going to be bringing it to Pierce County because we're opening up a branch here in Pierce County in the next couple months. But in King County, what we do, if the house is located in a low to moderate income area, we do $10,000. We'll give our borrower $10,000 towards their closing cost. So that helps with money, right? So once we get our branch opened here in downtown Tacoma, we will be able to bring that to Pierce County and help with those houses in those CRA areas, low to moderate income areas. We're going to be doing $10,000 for them to help go towards their closing costs too. And that can go down to buying the rate down, um, and any other thing that covering up paying for appraisal and things like that to help our borrowers out-of-pocket expenses be as limited as possible, because our borrowers need to keep their money in their pockets because being a homeowner is not cheap. So allowing them to keep as much money as they can will allow them to be successful homeowners. What we do in the community with Pierce County Land Trust, we've been doing a lot of home buyer classes in the Tacoma area. I think we've been doing almost about one a month now. We started doing vision boards during those home buyer classes. So our attendees are going home with a big 16 by 20 vision board of where they need to be credit-wise, income-wise, what down payment program they're going to be using, a true game plan and roadmap. So we have a lot of fun with those classes, and we're going to be doing those, I think, clear till September, October, I think, Jesse. So that's what we've been doing at Washington Trust Bank.
That's wonderful. Yeah, there's a lot of really awesome programs that go on with Washington Trust Bank, and I'm excited that you're going to have more of a presence in Pierce County. Just right down there. I can almost see where you're going to be probably. Thank you for that. Thank you for the work that you're doing, Titus. And then, so Jesse, let's move to your work with Pierce County Land Trust so that we can get an understanding of what are you guys doing? How are you working with Titus and the Trust Bank? And what's that relationship look like? And what are you guys focusing on right now?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Casey, for the invitation. I'm excited to be here to have this discussion. As Casey noted, my name is Jesse Baines with the Pierce County Community Land Trust, and our mission is to conserve inhabitable land within Pierce County to provide affordable housing and commercial space to disenfranchised community members. And so just to kind of give a little backdrop, a community land trust normally is a nonprofit organization that owns and manages land for the benefit of a community, typically focused on affordable homeownership and other community serving projects. And really, COTs try to ensure that the long-term affordability by retaining home ownership of the land while the residents purchase the homes or the structures that's built on the land. That's kind of a short synopsis of what a community land trust is. And then, it might be good if I do share my screen right fast just to kind of, there we go.
Are you able to do that? Let me see.
I think so.
Yep.
So this is the presentation that we give for the homebuyer education classes. And so Pierce County Community Land Trust has been around for about 3 years now. And we've just recently acquired 4 parcels from the city of Tacoma in South Tacoma. And we're looking to build on the first parcel 10 units within the next year. And so a lot of our activity has been working with community members and partner organizations like the Multicultural Hope and Family Center, where we provide these homebuyer education classes in partnership with Washington Federal Bank, Washington Trust Bank, and other real estate agents in the community to really provide them with the resources that are needed. One, to better understand the home buying process, and then for them to have, as Titus noted, a game plan, a vision board of how they can become qualified to get a loan and a mortgage. And so that's really a lot of the work that we've been doing for the past year and a half. Is we have about 50 participants who have came through our program, and we have about 15 of them, Titus, that we're working one-on-one to pre-qualify them for a mortgage. And so a lot of the community land trust housing model really has multiple types of layers or types of, whether it's single family homes that they're building, they have limited equity housing cooperatives, they have condominiums, and they also have multifamily rentals. They almost always have a 99-year ground lease, which ensures that the land stays with the community and is always available. So the community ownership of the land is one of the most important aspects of a community land trust. So the land trust retain the land, and then improvements and anything built on the land is owned by the homeowner. And a ground lease lays out the responsibilities of the land trust and the owner. One of the main aspects is the community control of the land trust. It really sets it apart from many of the other nonprofit affordable homeownership programs, because we have community land trust residents or potential residents who serve on the board. And that ensures that their voice is helping to guide the organization, whether it's in our programming or how we build our homes and the programs that we offer to the community. And just, let's see, there'd be a good slide to go through. So a lot of what we talk about in our classes are home buyer purchasing power, which is very important for the home buyers to understand what can they afford to purchase with their current income. And so we go through this where we kind of help them understand, here's what a typical home would cost. Here's what you can afford for a mortgage with your current income. Here's the amount of down payment assistance you would need. Here's the amount of subsidies you would need to then qualify for the home. And this is really important to the home buyer because it kind of provides them with a detailed list and kind of guides them on what they're going to need to become a home buyer. So I'm going to stop sharing. So currently, as Titus noted, we will be having classes up through September. We host them every other month, and then we have our financial empowerment classes in between, where we really focus more on credit scores. We're looking at monthly incomes. We're looking at other ways that they can build wealth, whether it's through insurance and other ways to help them prepare along the path to become a home buyer.
Thank you, Jesse. Yeah, the community land trust model is really unique and um, probably one of the best equitable options for keeping equity in the community, building the community, from residents up, from what residents want. I think it's a really, really wonderful model. And thank you for the work that you do, Jesse.
The one thing I should add that I think is really something that Habitat provides as well is many of our home buyers really pay it forward for the future home buyers. So they only get a small percentage of the equity of the home. Usually it's between 20 and 30%, but it really ranges depending on the program. But that really means that 70 to 80% of that appreciation is going to the next home buyer. So the home buyers really are paying it forward and helping other home buyers um, basically afford the home.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, And this is a perfect transition to have Deena speak. Deena, please, yeah, let us know, what is Habitat doing in terms of home ownership? A lot of people in this room probably already know what Habitat does, but yeah, in terms of, I think this is a perfect way to segue into hearing from you.
Thanks so much, Casey. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Deena Giesen. I'm the Director of Homeowner Services. So as Casey had mentioned, and Jesse also, we provide affordable home ownership to Pierce County residents, to families and individuals that are under 80% of the area median income. And so, so I looked at the attendees, and most of you are familiar with the Habitat model. So we've been in business since 1985, and we've actually sold 300 plus homes in Pierce County. We moved from the sweat equity model to the ground lease model that Jesse had spoke about. And so through our ground lease model, we're able to sell homes and keep them affordable in perpetuity. So similar to the community land trust model, we do have restricted equity at 1.5% annually. And so essentially the buyers are purchasing the sticks and bricks of the home, and Habitat actually retains the land. In the case of the community land trust model, we do not have the tripartite board that Jesse had spoke about. So just to give you guys an example, we've sold a couple, a 3-bedroom, 1-bath home at 265. And so that's about the average that we're starting our sales of homes at, and they're appraising at about $460,000. So you can kind of see the gap on an affordable unit versus purchasing a house on the main market. And we're able to do that in partnership with our lenders, such as Pierce County Community Development Council, City of Tacoma, Department of Commerce, Homesite, and Washington State Housing Finance Commission, that offers generous down payment assistance to our buyers. And through our homeowner services department, we have 3 core programs. That includes the Pathways to Homeownership program, which helps to advance Black homeownership in Pierce County. We have, of course, the Habitat Homeownership program. And then we also provide post-purchase counseling and supports. We were able to provide mortgage assistance through funding through Pierce County Community Development Council. And I like to say that we're just not interested. Our goal is not to just get people into homes, right? We want to make sure that they successfully are able to maintain home ownership throughout the years. And we're able to do that through our housing counseling, coupled with financial education and one-on-one counseling. So in addition to the first-time home buyer classes, all of our buyers are attending core classes such as how to read a credit report, insurance basics, and other financial empowerment classes that Jesse had mentioned. So it's similar to the work that Jesse is doing. and it's much needed in Pierce County. So I hope I answered all the questions.
That was great. Thank you so much, Deena.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now that we've kind of heard from each of our panelists, now's the time for if you have any questions about, what each of our panelists do or what their organizations do or details or anything like that. This is the time for discussion, comments, questions. Just feel free to throw them in the chat, or you can raise your hand and take yourself off of mute and ask it yourself. But I am going to start with a couple of questions myself.
Casey,
So,
can I just
yes,
follow up right quick with
please.
the financing so that folks can afford the units? As Deena mentioned, a lot of it comes from local dollars, but there's also the down payment assistance, right? And then you have the long-term affordable subsidies. And those come from the Washington State Housing Finance Commission, as well as the Commerce's CRP. The Community Reinvestment Plan has subsidy dollars which help to make the homes affordable. So Washington State Housing Finance Commission has up to $100,000 per unit. Actually, it's 125,000, and the CRP has up to 100,000. So that's how we're able to make these homes affordable, is to couple in these subsidies of about $200,000 potentially for each unit. It costs $460, as Deena said, to build it. So we're down to $260. And then the folks can also layer in down payment assistance. And that's one thing Titus has really done a really great job of, is identifying the Homeownership Covenant Act and many other down payment assistance programs that are out there, and helping folks to understand them and layer them in so that the house that they purchase potentially could be $50,000 to $100,000 less than that, so that their mortgage is extremely low. That's our goal, is to get their mortgage as low as possible, to layer as much down payment assistance. Maybe their mortgage is $150,000, and they have about a $600 to $700 a month mortgage, which has that extreme amount of savings, which then helps them save for the future and really move out of the land trust home in 10 to 15 years is our goal.
Yeah, thanks for breaking that down. That was kind of be where I was going with my first question. So thank you. Kind of frame that, where are those dollars coming from, and what is sometimes the game plan for a lot of these homeowners in a community land trust. The idea is to stay for a certain amount of years and then um, move on. And as we're talking this week about the continuum of housing, what we've been talking about through these last few days has come up is, the continuum for each individual person might be different. Home ownership may not be the goal. For a lot of people, it is. And I think that I'm seeing lots of head nods, and it's because you guys are talking to people, and you're doing the case management type of work where you're that high touch of individual goals. And I just think that that's an aspect of the work that you guys are doing that is really spectacular. Just wanted to highlight that for a moment. Aaron has a question in the chat. Aaron, do you want me to read it? I'm happy to read it, but if you want to take yourself off of mute and say it yourself, you're more than welcome to. You're still on mute. There we
Sure,
go.
with all the expertise in the room, was wondering if folks would be willing to share some of what you're seeing as some of the potential opportunities or risks in the next, say, 12 months, for people interested in purchasing homes.
I would say the biggest risk is always not doing something. If rates come down, and like in class we talk about, because everyone's like, oh, I want to wait till rates to come down, because they think that's where affordability is going to come from. But the problem with rates coming down is real estate's a teeter-totter. If rates come down, prices go up, seller concessions go away, overbidding, waiving inspection. Right now, we're kind of at an even, where rates are kind of even. Feds say they ain't going to do much for the rates. You can get seller concessions and extended closings if need be, or what have you. So I think the biggest risk is not doing something when it's like this. If rates come down, prices go up. So the biggest risk is not doing anything. And I kind of tell people, once we get going, be comfortable with what the payment is today, knowing that you can take advantage of refinancing and doing things like that later on down the road. But the biggest risk is not doing anything. Plus, too, with so many programs out right now with Covenant and the other DPA programs with WishFIC, knock on wood, we hope Covenant doesn't go away. They were awarded more money, so that's going to continue. But if for whatever reason Covenant were to stop, that'd be another risk for waiting. If you qualify for taking advantage of Covenant and those down payment assistance programs. We definitely have a climate where you never know what the man in charge is going to do, staying non-political. But he has been doing some crazy stuff, especially if student loans start affecting the way that we would have to look at them if they go into collection status and things like that. So I would say right now, guidelines are favorable, down payment programs are favorable. Um, um, land trust models are favorable. Now's the time to be doing something. And if it's having to wait 12 months because of working on credit or things like that, cool, I get it. But if we are ready to go, waiting is going to negatively impact you.
Yeah, and I would just echo Titus that right now is really the greatest opportunity we've ever had with the amount of down payment assistance, Homeownership Covenant Act dollars, and other subsidies that are available to become a home buyer, as well as the longer you wait, you never know when these programs are going to go away, and things are going to change within the dynamics of mortgages and buying a house. So the quicker you get in, the more appreciation you're going to have, and the more you're going to win the quicker you join. So I think it's not about when, but how soon can you join the process.
Yeah, I would ditto that. I also think that consumer debt is very real within Americans, and people continue to become overextended in consumer debt. So I think that's one of the biggest barriers that our buyers are facing right now, is just getting overextended, and the lack of hope, and just not enough education going out. I mean, we do have these first-time homebuyer classes that are available, and there's so much information that's out there that everybody becomes the expert, and people take information from unreliable sources. So I think those are the biggest threats for that we see with our buyers.
Thank you. We have another question in the chat, and Annette, I'm going to read it unless you want to take yourself off mute and ask your question yourself, but it's up to you. I'll give you a moment. So it looks like, oh, go ahead.
I can read it. I mean, it's a kind of a series of questions, and hopefully you kind of see what I'm getting at. But yeah, what I said is, there a guaranteed appreciation rate that is provided by the trust, sort of like when someone buys a home and joins in? Is there a maintenance plan managed by the trust, or is the homeowner solely responsible for maintenance and capital needs? Typically, buildings depreciate and land appreciates. Does the length, 99-year land lease help the homes realize some of that land appreciation, even though they're not the owners? And what happens at the end of 99 years? Basically, I'm just sort of wondering, like, I understand that a portion of the appreciated value is sort of foregone, right, to keep these homes affordable. But I'm also wondering, is the amount of total appreciation significantly less because it's been decoupled from the land? Like, how, as a home ages, like, how does this model continue to provide any appreciation, any equity?
Deena, do you want to try to answer that first? Because you have.
Yeah, definitely. Just I hope that I'm tracking. So with Habitat for Humanity, we have the equity cap at 1.5%, right? And that 1.5% is actually based on the base loan amount. So when the homeowner goes to sell, they would sell it at the base loan amount plus the 1.5% equity, and then any down payment assistance that was used to subsidize that purchase, because that has to be paid back to the local jurisdictions or to Commerce or WSHFC. Now, we also are in communication with the Pierce County Tax Assessor to kind of figure out, as you know, this is pretty new to Pierce County, right? And so we're trying to figure out how to actually keep the property taxes low for the homeowners as well. Because of course there's that, the appreciation is gonna be used to evaluate the property taxes. And so I hope that answers your question. If not, yeah.
That's adds more insight, and I think I may have been a little fast and loose with appreciation versus equity, which are not the same. But obviously, if your home appreciates, you can gain equity quickly, and that's what many people have done since 1980s, right? To realize a lot of wealth through housing.
I also want to just follow up with the guaranteed there. It's not guaranteed appreciation. It's really follows the market as the homes and values increase in a general area, that home's price will go up. But if they do ever decrease, it could potentially decrease. And that's something, land trusts have seen over the last 15 years, right? Houses going down, but they're always on that like 20-year term where they're always going to appreciate and actually gain equity and value for the homeowner. Ours is a 2% per year, and then we cap it at 10 years. So 20% is a total amount of appreciation that the home buyer can retain.
That's helpful. Yeah, I'm really curious what happens in the long term of these types of deals. Having grown up in a house that's over 100 years old, I'm like, what happens in the end? But
So
that's
one of the
helpful.
things we try to do, we work with the home buyer to understand that if they ever want to sell the house, they have the first right of refusal to sell to their family members, and then then the land trust would then take over the home and purchase it back and then resell it on to one of our other land trust community members. But we hope that potentially a mother will then sell it to her son or her nephew, who then sells it to his child, right? And then it does stay with that family for 20, 40, 60 years. And at 99 years, we just redo the lease so that, it just has another 99 years added to the end of that last ground lease. And the maintenance, really good question. I know Habitat also provides, they have a HOA, right? That kind of manages. I don't know if Habitat, do you guys have an HOA?
Yeah. So we moved away from the homeowners association, but so just to answer your question about the maintenance, we do have so the ground lease is $100 a month, and $50 goes towards the lease of the land, $50 goes into a accounts reserves. So that accounts reserves can be accessed for any external capital improvement that's needed, with the exception of septic, because some of our homes are on septic and need annual or need to be maintained every 5 years, I believe. So, yeah.
Super helpful. Thanks.
Thank you for your question, Annette. Our next question is from Chris. It's about So for a buyer, how do the borrowing term lengths and yield spreads compare today for a Habitat home or a community land trust home versus a typical 30-year fixed mortgage that you might find on the market? And if and Chris, if you want to unmute yourself and reiterate your question, please feel free to do so. I'm just reading what I have.
Thanks, Casey. No, I think that's great.
Yeah, so does any of our panelists want to take that one on? Like what's the borrowing term lengths and yields compared to
Yeah,
your type
so
of versus market rate?
so with Habitat, we do mostly access Washington State Housing Finance Commission products. And then so it is a 30-year term fixed rate mortgage. And then also there are special rates for folks that are under 65% AMI. For both Habitat as well as purchasing through community land trusts. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you for your question. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So thank you in the chat.
And then
Thanks, Chris.
Titus, do you know if you guys offer separate? I know there's a couple of lenders up north that have some 10-year and 15-year mortgages. Is that something that Washington Trust Bank offers?
That 15-year? Yeah. I mean, honestly, mortgage terms can be whatever the borrower qualifies for debt to income wise. So you could do a 5-year term if you had the income to do it. Yeah, term, typically people like the lower interest rate, 30-year. And then what I'll do is if someone's like they want to get their house paid off in 15 years, but their debt to income ratios doesn't allow for a 15-year mortgage. So I say, okay, let's do a 30-year. And then I have the loan comparison calculation where it says, okay, if you pay X amount of money per month, in addition to your monthly mortgage payment, your loan would be paid off in X amount of years. So usually, if someone wants to get their loan paid off sooner, then I just say, all right, well, based on this calculation, if you throw an extra $500 on it every month, then your payments, you'll have it paid off in 18 years instead of 30 years. But it also gives that person the option. They're not stuck in that 15-year term or 18-year term with the higher payment every month. The water heater goes out, you just don't pay the extra payment that month, as opposed to, oh shoot, now I got to dip into my savings, or I got to get a personal line of credit or use my credit card to cover my water heater going out. So there are little tricks that I use, or just really just educating, especially if it's a first-time home buyer who wants to get their house paid off as soon as possible. Things like mortgage hacks.
I would like to add one of the things that Habitat makes sure of with our buyers is that we don't have private mortgage insurance or mortgage insurance premiums because of the subsidies. Our clients don't have to come in with 20% down, but because of the down payment subsidies and the way we're structured, there's no PMI or MIP on these loans.
So can you guys talk about a little bit more about how who's qualifying for these payments? It's like how does one qualify? What is that process like?
I know for Habitat, we look at their income first. So our buyers need to earn at least $60,000 to afford a mortgage. A first mortgage, which their mortgage is right around 1,600 average. And then they can't go above 80% of the area median income, depending on their family size. Their credit score has to be at least 620. And then there has to be a need. So most of our families are coming in, they are living in mold infested homes, homes where there's high crime rates, or they're just worried about the stability, right? And so they're worried about having to move out because their landlord has increased their rent annually. So and then also they are going to be first-time home buyers.
And in Titus, you guys have programs for things like housing loans, and I don't know too much about what Washington Trust Bank does in terms of building affordable housing. But if you wanted to talk about that, Jesse, I know you unmuted yourself too, so if you have a response to the other question as well.
Yeah, we definitely get in that space of helping fund affordable housing. We did a good chunk for Habitat in Seattle on a bill that they have going on where I want to say we contributed 7 or 8 mil towards it. So we're big in that space of if it's out there, and I want to say one of the minimum criterias is that 80% of that project be affordably priced. So we are in that space that's on the commercial side of things. But we do look for those opportunities for sure.
Yeah, we're working closely with Washington Trust Bank to look at our first 10-unit development and how they could potentially help fund that. So we've been working with their loan officers and some of the senior staff with Titus to kind of help guide us through that process to see, are there traditional dollars that can help these affordable developments? Because that's a lot of what's missing from the pie, as Deena can probably explain even a little bit more. For our home buyers, the income is very similar, 80% of AMI, area median income, but we can go up higher. So in our developments, what we're working to do is that percentage of them will be market rate. So we have, 20% of the units out of 10, that's 2 units market rate. The dollars from those market rate units can then be applied to 1 or 2 of the other units where then it doesn't need the subsidies from the state, right? And we can subsidize it on our own through the profit of building those houses and selling them on the market. So we're working through some innovative strategies to ensure that we can go above that 80% of AMI, because Deena will tell you, getting folks approved at 80% of AMI is extremely difficult. And most folks are like Alice's, right? Asset limited, income constrained, employed, who are sitting in that 100 to 120% of AMI. And they don't qualify for a lot of the dollars that are out there, but they still need houses. And so that's been our focus, is how can we use some of our market rate units that we sell to help subsidize a few of the units to get to that 100 or 120% of AMI. There are some dollars out there from WishFIC and some others who will go up above 80% of AMI, but it's very limited in what they're able to provide. Our total housing costs can be no more than 35% of their gross monthly income. And then their total debt should be no more than 40% of their gross monthly income. Their assets are limited to being at 300,000, and the property must be their primary residence. And then for our credit score, it's at 640, which is a little bit higher.
Thank you for that breakdown. Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, it's one of the best equitable models and long-term equitable models that I've seen. So yeah, just again, really appreciate the work that each of you are doing towards the same goals. Thank you again. I have one more question if we have a couple of minutes, just to touch on, like we kind of already touched on it a little bit, but the barriers to building So Jesse, you're looking to build that 10 unit. What are you running into? What is Titus helping with? And also a second part of that question are the partnerships. What are the partnerships that are really holding it down, and where are those gaps? And maybe there's people in the room that um, can help fill those gaps or be a partner to you guys.
Yeah, I can't think of any. It's hmm. I think I can't think of any. I can't think of any.
Okay.
So I jumped to the partnerships piece. What was the first part? It was the building affordable. What are the lack of
Building like any roadblocks.
roadblocks? Yeah.
Yeah. And we kind of already touched on them, right? Funding or, you know, um, just the land permits or, that's the conversation that I've heard around affordable building is, how complex the funding is,
Yeah.
how long the permitting can take, how many partners need to be involved. And I guess like let's just focus on the second part of that. Are your partnerships? Are there any obviously you three are in partnership at least some of the time or a lot of the time on different projects and at least know what each other's organizations are doing. And so I'm wondering, do you have any needs for partnership um, or what are you looking to do? Titus, y'all are going to be in more in Pierce County now. Like, what are maybe some needs or some asks? Just because we might be um, we're in a group where we might have some partners, potential
I think we
partners.
always need more partners, right? And if we were talking about some of the roadblocks, currently the city of Tacoma has done a really good job of streamlining their affordable home ownership permit process. It's extremely fast, it's shortened, and they're really working well with us through our first development. So that's something that has kind of been a roadblock that's kind of been removed in a sense. But it is the complex funding that is definitely a tremendous barrier. A lot of times the funding, Casey, comes out once a year. Like the county has their funding once a year in May, the city has their funding once a year in May, and then Wishfig has their funding, right? Deena, that comes out in September. And so, we really have limited dollars that come into the pot once a year to develop all of these units. So I think that's some of the struggle. So when we start talking about Titus and having some other traditional dollars available to bring to the table to offset some of those costs or to layer in the funding, really helps those projects become like have some real movement to
Potential
them and
life,
get their
yeah,
exactly. Mhm.
some life to it. I think sometimes too that the upfront costs, the carrying cost, the upfront costs is out there. As far as like with us being the new guys in Tacoma, we want to be plugged in everywhere. And that's kind of like my job is to be like the middleman and the go-to. Things that we're looking for is anything that we can invest in that is going to help home ownership, it's going to help affordability, it's going to go to low to moderate income areas. That's what we're looking for. Um, by whatever means that looks like.
And then partnerships really are so important. We currently just signed an MOU with the Greater Tacoma Community Foundation, and they're going to be really supporting us with some capacity building grant writing, but also support in our developments. And I think that's really what's needed, and I'm hoping that Habitat and that the Land Trust will, work on some things. They have a development right next to ours, and they may be bringing some dirt over. So we're always trying to find ways to build those partnerships. But I think, there's some other folks in the room who may know of other dollars or other funding streams that could really help get the projects up and moving. Those upfront costs, as Titus talked about, really are difficult pre-development feasibility. Luckily, there are some dollars out there with the BHI and the Field Order 15. The Land Trust has been able to attain about a $50,000 grant for the feasibility and pre-development work on the site, but I think that's usually like a tremendous difficulty is finding those dollars and getting the projects up and going without using our own dollars out of our own capacity from the organization.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And we have one quick last minute question right before we end here. And just like new projects, developments on the horizon in Tacoma-Pierce County area that anybody would like to share.
I'll go ahead. We have 80 homes that we're going to be purchasing from Pierce County Housing Authority, going in and remodeling them and getting them ready to purchase. So we have those homes are scattered around the Spanaway Parkland area mostly. So we have those homes, and then we also have a total of about 7 new build homes, new construction homes coming in the pipeline over the next year. So 4 of them are at the American Lake Telecom area, and then 3 of them are going to be in the area that Jesse had talked about, which is on 67th and Proctor. And then, of course, we have some future sites that will be coming in the pipeline in the next 5 years.
Exciting.
And we have 4 parcels that we purchased from the city of Tacoma. We're working on developing one of the parcels over the next 12 months. And so that's the first 10-unit development that we're working on. But we are looking, of course, the other 3 parcels will be another 15 to 20 units on each parcel. We're going to look to do condominiums on the other parcels, but we wanted to start with homeownership first because that's the immediate need for our community. But we know condominiums would be great because we can have smaller units and then have like rentals that will transition to homeownership is our hope. So we really do have a game plan to kind of provide affordable homeownership for the community over the next 5 years.
Wonderful. Titus, any updates?
Whatever projects you guys have. I'm a bank. Come to me. Let me know. I can share with you something that's kind of exciting. So I had been dealing with it right now, but we have a closing tomorrow. I think it's going to be one of the biggest down payment stacked clients. So the client is buying a house in Tacoma. Purchase price is $560,000. She qualified for Covenant, so she's getting $112,000 from Covenant. She's getting $60,000 from the city of Tacoma and from their down payment assistance program, and she's getting another $150,000 from another down payment assistance program, ALF out of Seattle, African American Leadership Forum. She's getting $330,000 in down payment and closing cost assistance. I think that's a record. But it, $560,000 mortgage, you're talking $4,900 a month. Her payment's like $2,100 a month. So when we talked about bridging that gap in affordability, she's under the 80% AMI. And you know what 80% AMI is in Tacoma? There's absolutely no way she would be able to afford really a home under 80% AMI in the city of Tacoma. But with these different programs and these programs allowing the layering, it's changing lives. So that's the kind of stuff that I look for and love putting in structuring. So if there's people that want to brainstorm or different DPA programs that come out, share them with me. I'll share them as well, because at the end of the day, it's needed in order to help bridge this gap that is continuing to grow because income is not keeping up with property values.
Yeah, thank you so much, Titus. That's a huge success, and I'm excited for that person and for you guys. And thank you to all of our panelists. I mean, you guys really are doing some amazing work, changing lives. Just as Titus said, I mean, it's housing is a huge part of everyone's life, and home ownership is just one of those things that we can do to create equity, generational wealth, to have a place to call home that you can do your own things to your yard. There's something really powerful about being able to do your own space at your own house. So, thank you so much for you guys being here. If you are willing to, and wouldn't mind putting your emails in the chat so people can contact you guys. Otherwise, you can reach out to me at the consortium. I'll put my email in the chat as well. And please keep, thanks, Jesse. Thank you. Yeah, and please keep interacting with these topics. Keep interacting with these professionals doing this work. And we do have another panel tomorrow talking about market rate housing, and we're gonna have a reception this evening at West of the Waterway at 6 p.m. If you'd like to join us there, feel free to email me with questions. And thank you again for interacting with these topics, interacting with Affordable Housing Week, and we hope to see you at other events. Thank you so much. I'm going to stay on for just a moment and have my email in the chat.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, you
Bye
guys.
now.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Everyone.
Thanks, Mary. Okay, bye. Bye, Tammy.